Geometry nodes is a very cool feature in Blender which can be used to make this, this, and this. Today, I'll try to learn geometry nodes and hopefully get skilled enough to create a city using only a cube. Why do I want to do this? Because modeling is slow and it would be awesome if I can create a bunch of cool stuff with just a few clicks. So let's start with our ritual. Delete the default cube and add a new one. I think now we're ready. So let's go to the geometry nodes section. And what is that? I have no clue what I'm looking at. So this is the node editor and this is a spreadsheet. Interesting. Okay, it's telling me the information about my current scene probably. Makes sense. So if I add another cube, it didn't increase. If I select both of them, no, it's still telling me about my current selection. So I cannot add any of these input nodes, neither these output ones, not these, and not any of these. Create a new modifier with a new geometry node group. All right, we have something. Now let's try to add some nodes in object. Maybe I can add this object. Now can I combine? Nope, that didn't work. I don't think that's how it works. Let's try rotate instances. Okay, that works, but it doesn't rotate the cube. Realize data in input geometry is ignored. Now, what does that mean? Let's try adding something else. Simulation. That sounds interesting. Now maybe if I rotate the instances, doesn't seem to be working. I think I should look at some tutorials or maybe a guide. The geometry node tree connected to a modifier is a node group. So this is a node group, right? Or is this a node group? Fundamentally, a field function is a set of instructions that can transform an arbitrary number of inputs into a single output. So when we added the rotate instances, this is a field input. Okay, now get me to the juicy stuff. The manage panel can be hidden by disabling show manage panel in the modifier's header options. There is no such option. So the power went out and that project file got corrupted. But in the meantime, I didn't waste any time and actually watched a 20-minute beginner tutorial for geometry nodes. So I won't be bragging if I called myself a pro. So I'll try to recreate what the tutorial taught me. And for that, we're going to be adding a icosphere, increase the subdivisions a bit. It's called extrude, and voila, look at that. So we've extruded every single face of our mesh. What I want to do is add a noise texture. Okay, that looks cool. Now if I change the noise texture from 3D to 4D and add a time node and plug the seconds to the W value, which I don't know what it means, and if we hit play, look at that. Isn't that cool? But what I want to do is create a city. Now let's sit back for a moment and think like a city planner. And what I think is we need a ground. Now we want to distribute stuff on it. Now I know a node that can do it. That is instance on points. Whoops, that deleted our cube from this world. But if we go to the edit mode, we can see that the plane is here. And that's because now we're only seeing the instances. But what I learned from the tutorial is that if a pin is vertical like this, that means that more than one thing can be placed in here. So if we take our original geometry and plug that into... Okay, never mind. That doesn't work. Maybe it was called join geometry. Now, yeah, this one is longer than this one. That means that we can place more than one object. So let's add a cube, move it, and now take this cube and place it in here. Now, if we take the geometry and plug it in the instance, we have a lot of cubes in here. We can make them smaller. And now we have our instances on points because this plane has only 4 points. So if we subdivide it a few times, the more times we subdivide, the more points this plane will get. Now we can randomize the scale of these cubes. So if we plug the random value in the Z scale, look at that. we have our own city. Now, what if we give our cube a material? Let's try to give it a material that looks like glass. Let's decrease the roughness, maybe increase the metallic. Okay, that's too bright, I guess, so make it dark. Do we have a brick texture? We have. That looks sick. Okay, but how do I make it not stretch like this? I couldn't fix this, unfortunately. So let's move forward for now. Now that does look like a lot of buildings, but it's not a city and it's not made from a single cube. So we're gonna delete them again and let's make a cube this time. And now we can insert these faces. All right, cool. Now what we can do is hit P and separate this by selection so that all we have are these faces here. But I'm pretty sure that there has to be a node that scatters a bunch of stuff on surface. How to scatter a bunch of stuff on a surface using geometry nodes. We have a node for that. Okay, we have a bunch of stuff scattered on the surface, but we wanna scatter this object in particular. So do we just pick it like that? Never mind, that's the wrong object. So let's add our building again. Okay, we have something and we can reduce the scale here. Okay, I can assign a minimum distance between these objects here. So maybe let's give a small minimum distance of 0.2 meters. That is definitely less than 0.2 meters. So I don't know what it's doing. Look, here as well. There's like zero space here. I want to randomize the Z scale a lot. Okay, that looks awful. Does that look anything like how I want it to? Maybe. Yeah, it does, kinda. But I don't know why the brick texture looks so weird on it. Whoa, that's working now. That is awesome. We can actually walk through our city now. But what if instead of this single cube, we make actual buildings? So let's start modeling. First one can be a simple tower. All of them are going to have the same material. What the... Okay, it's back. Now what we can do is in the scatter on surface, instead of object, we can do collection. Let's try bringing this collection in here. Maybe do this. Yeah, maybe that's working now. Wait, we can do one more thing. Images. And let's do... Yeah, this looks good. So what we can do now is go to the UV section of these buildings and adjust them one by one like this. Now we have something much better looking. So it does not look as good as I hoped, but I think it'll do for just 3 hours of work. Also, we just crossed 530 subscribers and that's pretty cool. So thanks for that. Have a nice day and I'll see you next week.